So here we're just interpreting the variables from chapter 11, and we're going to use Becker to help us interpret the variables and think of the real gains from trade that happen between producers and consumers. Is there some deeper good that people want? And one of the questions that the market answers is, how's that good produced? Maybe the consumer would participate in part of the production, maybe the maybe the manufacturer or the seller would participate. And there's a question, how much of each? So in my notation here, L is going to denote the consumer part. We might call it the downstream inputs. And then K is going to denote the upstream, say the company's inputs, the seller's inputs. And these are, examples: time, effort, travel, I think is a big one. If the seller and the buyer don't live next to each other, who's going to pay for shipping? Or does one of us have to travel? Well, that's a decision the market has to make. Sometimes we call that, the K, we call it quality. It means that if K is high, it means that the seller's done most of the work and doesn't leave much work left for the buyer when he hands it over. Maybe you guys don't have kids yet, but when you do, parents, late on Christmas Eve, we're doing a lot of toy manufacturing. Now we're not, molding the plastic and things like that, but there's some last assembly steps. You go to the toy store and it says some assembly required, or you buy it on Amazon toy section, it says some assembly required. And then me and Mom are there with the hammer and the wrenches and stuff, putting this stuff together. And of course, toys vary in the degree to which some assembly is required. And that would be, market decision on, well, is this a K-intensive toy or an L-intensive toy? Okay, we said that part. So the consumer price, in this interpretation, the consumer price is RK over Y. Well, in some sense they pay P, but they're paying WL to themselves. L is them, right? So in terms of the cash that changes hands, it's just RK. And so you could call that the consumer price would be RK over Y. And that's the thing that we're going to say is going to be regulated. So a government's going to come in and say, hey, there's a minimum what the consumer pays the producer, or there's a maximum. And we're going to regulate this. Not going to regulate P directly. I saw a hand go up, and then it went back down. Yeah.
I was going to ask, if I buy a IKEA versus a furnished thing, I don't view the prices the same, I guess. So shouldn't we include my opportunity cost in the consumer price, or is it?
Well, that would be P. So P and rho are different. P is WL plus RK over Y. And that's the P that Murphy talked about, and we're going to use that P in the same way. So you're right. WL has to count there. But tell that to the regulator. The regulator comes along and says, I'm just regulating the part where it changes hands, when the good changes hands. Yep. Okay.